Welcome back to another episode of the Startup Operator Weekly Roundup. The Weekly Roundup is a show for people like you who like to stay updated with the latest developments from the Indian startup ecosystem.
If you're new to the platform, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you get more of this stuff. What are we discussing today, Gunjan?
Well, currently the Auto Expo is on, and one company unveiled the world's first self-balancing scooter.
Wow.
Right,
Okay.
and then RBI made an announcement that should make a lot of Indians living abroad happy, saying that very soon they will be able to start using UPI payments using their international mobile numbers.
Now, I know at least 2 or 3 people who are jumping in joy.
Yeah, but folks in Mumbai might have something to not celebrate because Rapido announced that it will be shutting operations over there after
Oh.
a High Court order. But well, at least the auto wallahs stop on the road asking people like, hey, where do they want to go?
Yeah.
Like in Bangalore. So well, yeah, a lot of things to discuss. And before we dive into that, a huge shout out to our sponsors for this episode. This episode is brought to you by Park Avenue. Before we dive into the details for the headlines, Roshan, how was your week?
It's been a rather quiet week, I should say. I mean, I was looking at some of the news on the economy front. The inflation numbers are in. We're at the lowest in some time. They're at 5.72% retail inflation, which is pretty low compared to, let's say the US, which is 6+%. And so on. And overlapping this, the index of industrial production numbers also came in, and these were trending up, right? I mean, now these are, small but positive signs on the economy front. I was just talking to a few folks over the week. The way India resisted the demand side stimulus, right? I mean, the just giving out cash to people during these lockdowns and during the times of 2020, 2021, when COVID was raging, with so much of undue pressure. I think it's just very, very sagely and very wise. Our policymakers were super wise. Our government was extremely wise to do that, right? Because right now what you're seeing in the West is like a double whammy on both supply and demand, right? I mean, now with all of this Russia-Ukraine war and so on, I mean, obviously, on the supply side, things are constrained, and plus, I mean, you have a system where there's a lot of cash in the economy as well, right? So luckily we are not as badly affected, but of course, I mean, these are things where the world economy, if the West catches, the West sneezes, I mean, we catch a cold, right? So, but still, good stuff on the economy front. And India is hosting the Hockey World Cup. I'm not an avid hockey fan, but I really like the game. I mean, I used to play it when I was a kid. I'm planning to catch 1 or 2 matches. I mean, I hope you do too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen the new stadium in Rourkela?
Yeah,
They have
apparently very good. The
yeah,
Birsa Munda Stadium in Rourkela, right? Yeah.
yeah. All right, let's talk about the G20 summit, right? So ever since India took on the presidency in December of last year, right, they have made a couple of announcements to boost the economy and cooperation within these countries. And last week, it was announced that this platform called Startup20 will be formed to bring in tighter collaboration between the ecosystem within each of the member countries. Now, with this, I think this will provide a huge platform for startups to, exchange ideas, work more collaboratively. But more importantly, I think with the governments coordinating on this front, I think for startups that are eyeing international expansions, for them, a lot of things might get simplified. Things like compliances, things like payment processing, things like all the applications and regulatory frameworks, these things will be made more easy for founders as they scale up.
Right.
How do you see this thing growing and helping
I think
startups?
it's a fantastic opportunity for India to take the lead and build a broader startup ecosystem, right? Any of the products that you have here, I mean, Southeast Asia and so on and so forth are just a natural extension, right? The market dynamics between, let's say, India and Indonesia are very, very similar. So we should definitely take the lead and build a broader platform, and given that, we have these massive digital platforms, right? We should think of, perhaps leasing these platforms out to these other countries as well, and hopefully attract more capital as well in terms of investing in this common pool of startups. Yeah.
Well, talking about India exporting its digital prowess, right? I think India's done a great job in building the digital ecosystem in the country, right? We even discussed this in our last roundup, and we have seen the government also take initiatives, right? And this Startup20 platform will be a great way to bring that in the forefront. For example, in 2019, if I remember correctly, Google had written to the US Federal Reserve stating that they need to implement a system like India's UPI. Then NPCI was in talks with a lot of countries in Europe to implement similar peer-to-peer payment service. And more than 76 countries have expressed their interest in adopting a platform like COVID to administer vaccine doses. Right. So I think there's enough testament to the amount of value India's digital ecosystem can bring in, and this platform will serve as a great channel to let that out.
You bring up Coven, right? I mean, I was talking to Suraj Sudhir, who's written a book along with my friend Ashish Chandarkar The book is called Braving a Viral Storm, and it documents India's COVID-19 vaccination journey. It's a fascinating book. Definitely a must read for people. It makes you feel proud of the fact that you're an Indian. And Suraj lives in the US, right? And he was talking about the contrast between India and there, right? There, I mean, you had to call into centers, you had to drive down to see if slots were available and so on, right? Whereas COVID made it so easy for us to track either infections, vaccinations, and so on, right? I mean, yeah, it's just, I think on the digital realm, India is just far advanced compared to the rest of the world.
So yeah, this platform will help enable further cooperation between countries. But also last week, RBI also announced that very soon, for Indians who are like staying outside the country, they will be soon able to make use of UPIs,
Yeah.
right? And we have seen the amount of benefits a platform like UPI has brought in. They completely revolutionized the peer-to-peer payment service,
Yeah.
right? And currently, NRIs can only set up a UPI ID if they have an Indian mobile number. But with this change in regulation, I think they can register using the international number itself. And currently, 10 countries are being allowed to do so. Slowly, this will be rolled out to more countries as we see. And because of this, I think the biggest beneficiary for this will be all the students that are living abroad, or those companies that have local subsidiaries in abroad countries for them to settle payments. This will give a huge boost in that direction, I feel.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, this is something that is long due. I mean, there has been a lot of demand for this, right? Every time my sister is down here from Dubai, I mean, payments are such a hassle, right? Because she still has to fork out cash and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, this is great. I mean, you're supposed to have an NRE or an NRO account, right? Which
Yeah.
is that you need an Indian account still. In order for you to be able to collect or pay, right? Think of a lot of these use cases, right? I mean, if you have, for example, if NRIs have land here and they're collecting rent, right? I mean, it could be a lot
Right.
easier if you are paying someone for tutorials or whatever else, right? I mean, these use cases get sorted, right? And UPI is really the best payment mechanism at this point of time. So having a US number or a Middle East number should not be a limitation, as long as you have that NRO or NRE account. UPI has already stepped towards that internationalization, right? And that's the
Right.
next lever of growth for UPI, I should say. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think there's also close talks with countries like Nepal, Bhutan to implement a
Yeah,
UPI like framework, right? And it's great to see
yeah.
India taking that charge within Southeast Asia to kind of digitize the entire payment ecosystem.
The best thing would be for Indians to be able to pay using UPI abroad, whenever that happens, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that will add a lot of swag value also, right? I
Well, it is.
mean,
I mean, the government is working also towards it, right?
yeah.
2,600 crore has already been earmarked to promote RuPay and UPI. So yeah, talking about news closer home, and this will be really relevant if you're listening, if you're joining us from Mumbai. The Bombay High Court has directed Rapido to shut down its operations in the state, given the reason that they do not have a proper license to operate bike taxis.
Mm.
Right, but again, this was news we had seen in Karnataka as well, sometime I think in November last year, where Ola, Rapido, Uber were asked to shut down its bike taxi service because that was not the license they were given for. But despite all of this chaos, we were still able to book bike taxis and autos on Rapido, and that really did not have much effect. Although that issue was raised because they were charging a premium over the basic fare.
Right.
How do you think this will play out in
See, this is
Maharashtra?
long due resolution, right? And I think the center has to sort of take charge of this, because there's a lot of ambiguity between different states. And look, this whole bike taxi, this whole Uberized model, right? I mean, it's a genie out of bottle situation. And I always say that, look, in India at least, given that our infrastructure is not that great, this last mile mobility has to be solved through these kind of innovation. And so, yeah, I mean, I really hope that the black and white is very, very clear so that entrepreneurs don't have to operate in the gray and be like at the receiving end of things like this, right? Yeah.
We'll see how this plays out, but at least for like for folks in Mumbai, right? At least the auto wallahs come and stop in front of them, asking them where do you want to go, unlike how it is in Bangalore. But okay, now talking about Microsoft. Microsoft has recently announced an unlimited vacation policy, right? Or to use the factual term, the discretionary time off policy. And with this, employees basically have the freedom to choose how and when and where they do their jobs from. While still, as an organization, Microsoft does believe in the power of having a team in one place, but I don't think a one policy fits all approach also will work, right? And it's not only Microsoft, but companies like Netflix, Oracle, Salesforce. These companies are also offering these unlimited vacations to like entice people to come back to the office.
Hmm.
But how do you see this playing? Because we have this enough talk about hybrid work environments or 2-day work days or 3-day work days. What's your take on that?
No, I think this will come with plenty of riders, right? I mean, obviously, it will be for certain roles and certain people for sure, and it won't be a blanket policy. look, all of these companies have received a lot of bad press, especially over the last month or couple of months, right, with all these layoffs and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think this is just a nice PR balancing act in that sense. But yeah, people are back at the office for sure, right? I mean, look at Bangalore traffic. Midday there is like peak traffic nowadays, so
This episode of the Startup Operator podcast is brought to you by Park Avenue. Now that we're all back at the office meeting colleagues and clients, it's time to ditch those PJs and look sharp with Park Avenue's range of 100% cotton, wrinkle-free shirts. They're super easy to maintain and keep you looking fresh through the day. So my fellow startup operators, visit the Park Avenue store or myraymond.com and check out the new wrinkle-free shirt collection.
All right. So apart from BharatPe being in the news for because of related to
plenty of reasons. Yeah.
there are plenty of reasons. But and one positive news came last week where RBI had authorized BharatPe as an online payment aggregator. Now we have discussed payment aggregator and the benefits of it a lot of times in the roundup, right? But essentially, what it does, it helps e-commerce and other small-scale business owners accept payments across all platforms, right? So be it through UPI, Visa, Mastercard, or anything, the a payment aggregator can collect payments on the merchant's behalf. And Encash has also gotten an in-principle approval from RBI. Then we have PayU, which had applied for the license, but RBI asked them to reapply within the next 120 days. Paytm in the last quarter of last year, I think their license was declined. But what we are seeing here is that a lot of startups are vying for this space.
Yeah.
Right? That means there's a lot of innovation that can happen. There's a lot of money to be made in this space.
Yeah.
How do you see this evolving?
No, this ties in with BharatPe's central mission, right? Which was one QR code is all anyone needs, right? I mean, irrespective of whether they're using Paytm or PhonePe or whatever else. So it ties in very nicely with that. And look, I mean, payments are the tip of the spear, right? And these guys charge 0%, 0% to merchants, 0% to consumers anyway, right? So for them, I mean, the way to collect the payments has to be as simple and seamless as possible. This has made it a lot more simple and seamless, right? BharatPe is a lender, right? I don't know how they're losing money hand over fist, being a lender in India, right? So it just makes that entry point a lot more seamless, So they get to see more. They'll probably see more transactions, right? And it'll be interesting, they had acquired PMC along with Centrum sometime back, right? PMC Bank as well. So I don't know. I mean, yet to see, how that whole banking thing functions, right? I'm not sure if the license was revoked anytime recently, but yeah, I mean, interesting times. I mean, all of these folks will sort of morph into your, traditional banks or financial companies.
So a lot of companies have already gotten this. A lot of companies have already got this license, right? For example, your Razorpay, Pine Labs, and all, and these companies have raised a lot of funds to innovate in this space. How do you see them making money? Because as you just now said, they're not charging any fees on the lender side, nor on the consumer side. Then how do these companies
they'll make money on the spread, no? They'll make money on lending basically. So now I have a merchant's transaction history. See, the challenge with India is that we don't have a lot of challenges, but one of the challenges is that we don't have credit history, right, for a lot of folks and a lot of businesses. So how do you lend to these businesses? I mean, I can't say that, hey, you should keep your machinery as collateral or keep your office as collateral and so on, right? I mean, how do I know whether a business or a person is credit worthy? Now, if I have transactions like this, if I know your history of transactions, if I know that you're doing X amount of rupees a month, then I can probably reasonably assume that you will be able to pay back some X minus something or X plus something, right? Depending. So that is really how they function.
It's interesting. Okay, so right now, I think on Twitter, one of the hottest topics has been the Auto Expo in India, right? Which is currently underway in Gurgaon when temperatures less than 10 degrees Celsius, right? And all. Okay, yeah. The Auto Expo is on with temperatures less than 10 degrees Celsius, and still it's seeing massive crowds, right? There have been a lot of announcements made by the likes of Maruti, Tata, and the likes. But I think my best one yet has been the announcement of world's first self-balancing scooter, an EV scooter. There's this company called Liger, which have used proprietary technology called auto balancing that helps the scooter either self-balance itself with or without a rider on. Now, well, still very much in its nascent stage and it's not like available to the public yet. But I think before that, the potholes in the road needs to get fixed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, given the number of accidents and so on. Did you catch the Maruti Jimny?
No.
It's hilarious, man. I mean, it's got a Hummer's body, right, with your Baleno tires, So there's like this much gap between the tires and the frame, So I was just looking at their Instagram post and people have trolled the hell out of that car,
Well, folks, let us know what you are most excited about from the Auto Expo in the comment section below. Now, let's quickly wrap up the other headlines from the week, which includes a couple of notable fundraisers. And what stood out last week is that the big players are back. We have investors like Sequoia also take part in the fundraisers. There was $100 million plus check size, which really
Wow.
pulled up the investments we saw last week. And the companies that were Wakefit, they raised $40 million from Sequoia, Investcore, and Wellinvest. Then EdTech startup Lead raised $20 million in debt from Stride Ventures, Altaria Capital, Standard Chartered Bank, and HDFC Bank. Willcart, which is a B2B startup, raised $18 million from Asia Impact SA. Any comments you'd like to add to this?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Wakefit is, amazing story. You should check out Chaitanya's podcast that we recorded sometime back. Fantastic entrepreneur, and Wakefit's marketing is pure genius. Right, every one of their campaigns, have just been really, really amazing, and they're also, very, very highly rated on Amazon. Right, I think 4.6, 4.7 plus on Amazon, perhaps even more. Right, on Amazon and Flipkart. Fantastic business. We talk about often how challenging B2C can be. They've managed to execute really, really well. Do catch that episode. We'll link to it in the podcast description. That's some work for our producer. And good to see, alternate forms of financing as well, right? I mean, so people raising debt and so on. Yeah, and
Even so just one point to add here, right? Last year we also saw a couple of startups have this revenue-based financing, debt
Yeah,
financing. There are a lot of. It's not only that startups now need to go to VCs to raise funds.
Yeah.
They can exchange for equity.
Yeah.
But given the funding crunch and everything, there are alternate funding routes that are opening up.
Yeah, Stride is that, right? I mean, Stride offers debt financing as
Right.
well. In fact, we've spoken to more than a few folks, right? I mean, who do this. So yeah, I mean, their business is going to be a lot more lucrative, especially at this point of time. And it does make sense for certain types of businesses, where the cash flow is a lot more predictive, right? And you have to put up money upfront and so on. So yeah, those are the things that stood out.
Awesome. Now moving on to a Park Avenue PowerPoint segment. Roshan, recently you shared Ganesh's post on LinkedIn talking about his experience of going to Shark Tank and then deciding to go back, take a job, and come back with a lot
Yeah.
more learnings and enthusiasm, right? And it was really great to see people support on that.
Yeah. No, it was, I caught the episode yesterday and it was difficult for me to watch it because, I've been through that experience, 5 or 6 years back when I had to fold up my startup. It's not pleasant, right? To say the least. You feel like you are abandoning your dream, which you nurtured so carefully and closely and which you were eating, sleeping, breathing for all of this time, right? It's a very, very difficult time. And yeah, I mean, the way he kind of broke down on national television, right? I mean, again, I don't know if I would have the guts to kind of like say that and do that, take the decision, right? I mean, which is that, hey, I mean, it's a point of self introspection. Yeah, I mean, kudos to him. It's very difficult, really, really difficult. I felt I felt pretty emotional actually. But anyway, I spoke to Ganesh and we're going to have him on the podcast sometime. So yeah, I mean, you will get to hear from Ganesh on what the Shark Tank's experience is like. And yeah, that's something positive. People talk about what has changed in the startup ecosystem over the years, and I've seen this over 15 years. And I think one thing that stands out is founder empathy. The number of people who kind of support the founder journey today and who are empathetic of just all of the pitfalls and so on, right? Of all the lean times. Today is just amazing network of founders. It was, if you look at the comment section on that LinkedIn post, I mean, you had Kaushik of Sugar.
Yeah.
You had plenty of folks.
Yeah, all the sharks almost came out in support of Ganesh online.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a very positive sign. I think people should have the confidence to go out there and try things out, and if you screw up, well, it's okay. I mean, you come back another day and try again.
Yeah. Well, so we'll be having Ganesh on the podcast soon, and folks, if you have any questions for him, either related to Shark Tank experience or otherwise, do let us know in the comments below. And apart from that, what episodes are we putting out this week?
I don't want to announce for the third time that we're going to put out this episode with Sarvana of Kowai, but yeah, producer has been busy, but hopefully he has promised us that this week we will put out that episode. We also have a conversation with Shruti of Apna Club, which we recorded some time back, really, and that's another fascinating conversation as well. A lot of conversations, I mean, 6 or 7 of these that we haven't really published yet. You will see them soon in the next couple of weeks or so.
Awesome. So, folks, I hope you have already subscribed to the Startup Operators social pages on Twitter and LinkedIn. You'll see the links on the description below. And apart from that, if you'd like updates to be delivered straight into your WhatsApp inbox, you'll find a WhatsApp subscription link as well. I hope you really liked our conversations, and do let us know how you're doing by rating and reviewing us on your favorite podcast platform. And well, yeah, I guess that is it for 98th roundup. We are soon building up to 100th roundup episode.
Yeah.
So a lot more things in store. That we'll see you again next week.
See you guys. Stay safe.